Greetings, everyone. Good morning. Streaming to you here live from Wilmington, North Carolina. Welcome. I'm David J. Coon with Qigong Awareness, the author of Qigong for Beginners, Your Path to Greater Health and Vitality. We're going to be going into some little details here today about this book. Our program today, entitled Qigong for Peace, is sponsored by the Love, Peace, Amen Foundation. You can see that really cool sign right behind me that Bella made. To give a shout out to the Love, Peace, Amen Foundation. We're here to discuss peace. To me, peace is also about healing. I think it probably is for most of you as well. That's probably why you're here. Most people don't come to Qigong because it's Friday or Saturday and they're bored and they have nothing else to do. Maybe they do that once in a while. But for the most part, it's sort of a draw to healing. And certainly for me in my life, I know that the search for those two things as synonymous things have been huge for me for like the last 41-ish years. As soon as I got my mind around that concept of healing, I was seeking it. And for me, healing was always peace. It wasn't, I was seeking physical healing because for me, I had physical disease. I had tremendous physical pain in my body, was run over by a trailer, 12 years old. Trailer ran over the whole right side of my leg. It was filled with children and hay, and on a hayride on Halloween. And it did a lot of damage to my back. So I spent a lot of years with severe scoliosis and was told by my physicians that I'd be crippled by the time I was 30. I tried everything: chiropractic, massage, acupuncture, all these different modalities. But I was also practicing meditation. I was studying psychology. I was practicing Qigong. And not just Qigong in the park, which is an amazing thing in and of itself, but also Kung Fu. Not only Kung Fu in the park, but also studying the medical Chinese side of things. And then also studying, eventually went on to study Western psychology, became a counselor and a therapist, started studying Eastern medicine and Eastern philosophy. So I've been around the block. I've read many spiritual texts. In fact, today we were laughing because I had a stack at the top of my stairs, at the top of the stairs near my office. And Bella said, "Dad, you bringing all those books with you?" And I said, "We'll see which ones make the cut." So the two that made the cut today, which I'm going to be speaking to give some context for the practices that we're going to be doing, is my book, which I'll be speaking more about in terms of some of the quotes at the beginning of each one of these chapters. Why? Because I want to highlight some of the reasons that might speak to you as to why you might want to practice, but then also give you a context for that practice, like going forward, what you might want to work with. Because many people come to, whether it's Qigong or meditation or Reiki or whatever the thing is, yoga, and many times, you know, people are really seeking, right? We're seeking healing, we're seeking peace, and every single one of us that wants it to happen overnight, don't we? We want it to happen overnight. I want the healing overnight, I want the peace overnight. And for some people that might happen, okay? It's rare, I think, but for some people it does happen. More often than not, there is a progression with everything in your life, and that is true for healing, and that is true for peace. That is why I reference so many times whenever I teach the concept of momentum. Momentum is extremely important, and if you have a negative momentum, so to speak, going on in your life, a physical diseasement or pain or whatever it is, it did not happen overnight, even if it seems like it did. Oh, I was going along, everything was fine, you know, and then all of a sudden I got this disease. No, it doesn't happen. Even in the rare instance where something does happen overnight in terms of an accident, if you understand the spiritual teachings a little bit more deeply, concepts such as the law of attraction, the fact that our subconscious mind is creating certain things in our life that we don't want to create as obstacles, then you understand that even accidents are not an accident. There is a progression of things that are happening. That's why you can often look back at a situation where maybe you had an accident and you can say, ah, if I had only done this thing on Thursday instead of that thing. And of course, at that point, it's too late to go back and do it in that way. But you at least have that thought to yourself that says, there was probably something that I could have done to change that momentum so that the accident didn't happen. At that point, it's not helpful to beat yourself up and to judge yourself for not having been more mindful the previous Thursday. But look, you've got a whole life in front of you, regardless of how many years it is. If you're here, you got a whole life in front of you. And if you identify at all with concepts from Buddhism, for example, and Hinduism and other pseudo or religions, you can think in terms of this idea, or Taoism, of incarnation and reincarnation, and you're constantly living. You're living. Yes, you may be dying, but then you're also living. As one of my teachers likes to say, first, you're born, then you die, and then you're reborn, and then you die, and then you're reborn. Anyway, and that happens every moment of our life as well. So you don't have to just think in terms of, I live to be 90 years old and then I physically die and then maybe I reincarnate. But literally every moment is a reincarnation. This is what we get into when we hear teachings from Buddhism and Zen and other things like this. The other book I'm going to be referencing today is Eckhart Tolle's book, Power of Now. Okay. Why? Because we're talking about peace. Why? Because Eckhart and I have a similar vibe, slightly different vibe. He's more on the surface Buddhist. The Buddhist practices are more passive, meditative. The Taoist and the Zen Buddhist practices are a bit more physical. At this moment in my life, I am much more physical. And the Taoist practices and the Zen Buddhist practices, for example, both of them go from soft style Qigong to a harder style of Qigong that you would call martial art. It can be used in fighting. So in the Shaolin Temple, for example, we go from breathing practices of Qigong for health and vitality and meditation, and literally in the same class or the same day or the same afternoon, we're going to harder, more intense breathing practices. We're going to standing in horse stances while eating rice while standing in they stand in very deep horse stances, like as deep as I am right now, eating their rice. And they go from that to banging their head against something very hard to develop the strength in their head. And then they're doing certain things with their forearms, and then they're fighting with each other, and you see that martial art. So many people, when they see certain practices that I'll show, I won't necessarily show them today, but some of the practices that I show in other courses and so on are a little bit toward that harder side. I don't really go toward the harder martial. I show a little hint in that direction. But I want you to understand that a lot of people will immediately go, oh, well, that's not Qigong because it's too hard. Everything's supposed to be very slow. That's not true. There's 3,000 different styles. And in the Zen Buddhist styles and the Taoist styles, some of it can be very extreme to the point where they're breaking concrete with their hands, their heads. They're having concrete broken on their bodies. Why is that important for our conversation? Some of you may be wondering. Because if these people can perform superhuman feats, you know what one of my favorites is? This is one of my favorites. And it's not super hard style, breaking concrete. It is, and you can look it up online, there's only a few entities who have the ability to do this, and I can't even imagine how many thousands of hours they had to train to do this. They will take a needle and they throw it through a plate of glass. You have any idea how much you would have to concentrate and focus your chi to put a needle through a plate of glass, and how fast you would have to be able to throw that needle? But a lot of people, again, why would anyone dedicate thousands of hours to being able to throw a needle through a plate of glass? Because, as we talk about here in my book, one of the quotes that I'm going to pull out, let's see if I can grab that one real quick. It's a Tony Robbins quote. Here it is. One reason so few of us achieve what we truly want is that we never direct our focus. We never concentrate our power. Most people dabble their way through life, never deciding to master anything in particular. When I walked into I had been training martial arts and Qigong and traditional Chinese medicine when I was 15 years old. But when I turned 18, it went to a whole other level because I met and first I saw, then I began training with my first master. The moment I walked in that door and met that guy and some of his disciples and students, I said, that's what I'm going to be when I grow up. It was like rebirth, a memory inside of me that made me just want to train that and focus that. And I was the guy that they would close in the dojo to go to lunch, and I would stay in there practicing while everybody else was at lunch. And I was there before, and then I would stay there all night and practice. Within just 2 years of being there, I became an assistant instructor at that school. So to me, I cannot help but bring to you all, whether we're talking about peace from a soft style of seated meditation, which we'll be doing today, whether we're talking about working with the inner energy body, which Eckhart, I'm going to reference something Eckhart talking about in his book, talking about the inner being, talking about what we call in our discipline the energy body, or what Eckhart refers to as the pain body, or what I call in my book the emotional pain body, because both of those are true. It's the emotional body that Eckhart's talking about. And what kind of emotion are we talking about? The kind that causes pain. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it. Because what is the opposite? It's another P word that's the opposite of pain. Can anybody guess what it is? We're here to talk about it today. It's called peace. And do you know what peace actually is? It's actually the absence of pain. Whoa, write that down and highlight it. Make note of it, because as many gurus and others will say, one of the other ones that I'm going to pull out a quote from here today is Jiddu Krishnamurti. If you never heard of Jiddu Krishnamurti, opened right to it. I always love when that happens. Okay. Sorry, I was tripping on names. Bruce Lee was a huge fan of Jiddu Krishnamurti. His martial art system, which he called, he said it was not a system because Jiddu Krishnamurti was not a fan of systems. Very briefly, Jiddu Krishnamurti was raised to be the next leader of India and world leader in India, coming from the country of India. But then the idea was to spread this teaching all over the world. And he was raised from the time he was a little child. And at 18 years old, he took over the society that had been built for him. And his first day, which I'm sure blew some minds, his first day with his new role, he disbanded the organization and said, I do not believe in systems. Systems cause separation between people, and separation between people causes war, violence, hatred, all of these different things. So what is the opposite then of separation? It's oneness, unity, sameness. Doesn't mean we're all the same. Doesn't mean we all need to dress like I'm dressing today or I dress like you dress. But as consciousness, the highest level of our being, we are the same. Physically, we're not the same. Emotionally, most of us are actually the same, even though we don't know it. One person talks too much, the other person is afraid to talk. Opposites are actually the same. That's also why they say opposites attract. Take a deep breath. Catch this piece if you can. If you're always around angry people, you need to ask yourself a question. Why am I attracting angry people who are outwardly angry? That's what I'm talking about. And if you do, I can guarantee you, you're inwardly angry. You're not going to draw angry people into your life who are outwardly angry if you're not dealing with internal anger. Change and there's going to be a big concept that we're going to be working with for the rest of our time together today and any other time you train with me, as we change the inner, we change the outer. But you know what most people are trying to do? And you know why most people don't have a sense of peace within themselves? It's very simple. They're spending all of their time and all of their energy either A, trying to change what's going on in the outside world, or B, they're trying to deny and get away from and escape what's happening in the outside world. Both of those are the same thing. And if you want to read a lot about that, go ahead and pick up some of Jiddu Krishnamurti's books, because you'll hear him talk about it all the time. The inside is the outside is the inside, and it's an illusion to think that there's any difference between the two of them. And if you desire to change wars and violence, you need to look inside yourself, and you need to find the angst that lives inside of you. You don't have to look really hard, okay? You just live your life. And when it shows up as a practice of mindfulness, you see the anger, you see the fear, you see whatever it is, and you go practice your Qigong to dissipate it. You look at it and you say it, and this takes some practice. You're not going to do this day one, but you'll do this year 3, you'll do this year 5. 5 years into training, you'll do this. You'll literally sit there and say, anger, you know, here I am 40 plus years in. When anger arises for me or something happens, which is a lot less often than ever before, but it will happen, especially with some old news related to a family member or something, something will rise. And I immediately say to myself, when I feel that feeling and I sit with it, what is it? What is it about? It's always going to come back to some form of self-judgment. Judgment of others is always judgment of yourself. Judgment of yourself. I know it's going to be a dirty word, dirty set of words, but it really comes down to forms of self-hatred. How can you prosper in your life? How can you have peace in your life when you harbor self-hatred? I know, it's a dirty subject, it's a touchy subject, no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to, you know, feel their anger, let alone what's underneath the anger. But one day, with some practice, you'll be brave enough, courageous enough, and not just even that, like you desire peace so much that you realize, I can't harbor this anymore. What is it? And so you peel it away and you look down there and you realize, oh, it's self-hatred. It's all self-hatred. They're forms of self-hatred. Self-hatred is a form of hatred. Hatred is hatred. And then you look and you realize, oh, in this moment, I'm harboring hatred. Well, in your right-mindedness, do you want to harbor hatred? No. But this is why practice and some degree of mastery is important. And this is why I say to you, this is how I did it, okay? At some point in my life, my early life, I was like, I'm not even going to make it to 30 years old. Probably won't make it to 30 years old. Got run over by a trailer, had so many other things going on in my life, growing up with alcoholics and people using drugs, and I'm growing up like this. I start following that path as a teenager. I'm thinking I'm not even going to make it to 30 years old. But lucky for me, I tripped into the spiritual work and I found greater relief, greater peace. I found the energy body in my body. Was able to heal the spinal disease by the time I was about 28 years old, at least a large majority of it. And had a series of what you'll hear Eckhart talk about as well. Eckhart's awakening that he had sounds like he had it and it stayed with him. I've had profound awakenings. I've heard Eckhart talk about this as well, that for a lot of people it happens in increments. I've had the increments. I've had easily somewhere close to 50, somewhere between 50 and 100 what I would call awakenings. Profound, where I thought I'm enlightened. It was beyond the body. It was beyond, for the most part, what I could describe to you. Profound, profound peace, profound realization that I'm not my body. Perfectly awake, perfectly alert, perfectly aware, profoundly peaceful. And the one thing that's happened pretty much every time is that when I realized what was happening and where I was, so to speak, which is hard to describe except to say everywhere at the same time, and space, and yet right here somehow, but not with a body. And in that state, there's one common thing that would happen. Somewhere toward the end of that, where I started to come back to the awareness of time and space and body, I didn't want to come back. That was literally the first thought. The first thought that came after presence and peace and total awareness and just this incredible feeling of bliss. The first time that happened to me, I was about roughly 21 maybe. And somebody did some energy work, like medical Qigong, but it was a form of polarity, energy work on my body. Within just a few minutes, I was outside above the building, looking down at myself and watching her work on me. But that's cool, but what was more cool than that, the peace that I felt and the freedom from pain was unbelievable, incredible. I stopped doing drugs, I stopped drinking. They paled in comparison to what I began experiencing. I started meeting teachers and healers who helped me transport myself into that energy body and beyond that energy body. That's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to go just a little bit further with the conversation, and then we're going to stand up. We're going to do some physical practices, and I'm going to do my best to help you get in touch with your energy body. I have literally at least 100 ways, probably more, to help you get in touch with your energy body. But I'm going to show you several Qigong practices, standing, that are going to help you get in touch with the energy field, your energy body, your inner self, and start to work with it. Because, as Eckhart alludes to, and if you haven't read The Power of Now, and if you haven't read New Earth, I highly recommend you do. The concepts, for the most part, are over most people's heads. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Imagine that somehow it comes in through osmosis. Why is that important? Why am I talking about it? Because if anything that I'm talking about right here is true, and if anything that Eckhart is talking about is true, and if anything that Jiddu Krishnamurti is talking about is true, then here's the thing. You remember, because you're a soul, you're a spirit. You are an unawakened, what they call in certain places, unawakened Buddha, unawakened Christ. We're on the path to awakening. So one of the words that I wanted to use alongside of peace here today is the word awakening, waking back up to what some masters, some teachers, some gurus will call your immortal reality. Who is running to this immortal reality? Who is running to this inner being? Who is running to seek peace? Well, very few people, but the numbers are growing. And do you know why the numbers are growing? Listen carefully. Take a deep breath if you want to. Breathe it in. I always say breathe in the concept if you can. Embody it. Take it in. Pain, I told you, is the opposite of peace, right? It's a great motivator. When people come and say, it's okay, I don't think I'm going to do Qigong, I don't think I'm going to do meditation, I don't think I have time for any of that. I say, no problem. See you. You know, people contact me from years ago. They go, you're still doing that? Yes, I am. I think I'm going to come back and take some classes. Great. People will say to me, David, you're so disciplined. It's true. I got multiple black belts. How many people have 1, 2, 3, 4 black belts? Trained martial art, trained through a spinal disease. Not a lot of people. But do you know, with as much discipline as I had, I would have never made it if it wasn't for the awakening part. The awakening part is about remembering who you are. It's about waking up and remembering what lives inside of you. What does fear do? That's right. It causes you to contract and it causes you to grab on to things, doesn't it? And you know what's crazy about that? The moment you grab onto fear, what happens? More of it comes into your life. Qigong practice, we're not going to do it in a day, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to scratch the surface of it. But you got to learn over time to, and again, it's not just learn, it is learning, but it's also like the pain. For me, the pain was so intense. Peace became a priority. When peace is a priority, you put it on your schedule. When you understand the law of attraction, was one of the other books I was going to bring today too. I was like, all right, we'll leave. But when you understand law of attraction is all about how you're vibing, what you're vibing with energetically. Okay. And by the way, this is a very old teaching. A lot of the new age teaching is about how do you get the new car? How do you get the girlfriend? But this is a very old teaching that's been remarketed and rebranded. Jesus taught it. He said, that which ye sow, ye shall reap. That's the law of attraction. Buddha said, as a man thinketh, so shall he become. Same thing. Karma was based on for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. Taoist masters are known for having the student throw a pebble into a pond. And what happens when you throw the pebble in the pond? That's an action you take. There's a reaction. The ripple goes to the edge of the pond. And if you turn around and you're not looking, if it was a nice gentle throw, nice gentle stone that you threw, then the pebble comes back, or the ripple comes back, and it softly graces the back of your head or the front of your face. If you threw a stone and it was out of anger and spite, and then you turn your back, I like to call it the boomerang effect. The boomerang's coming back, the wave is coming back, and it might just hit you in the back of the head. One of the things I'd like to say, and I do say, I like to say it, because I think it's awakening. You cannot fool the law of attraction. You cannot fool it. That means everything you put into it, something's going to come back to you. Don't be super concerned about it. Just start throwing the right kinds of stones, and your life will work out for you. All right? All right, so finishing up with Jiddu Krishnamurti's quote, and then off to the energy body a bit. So find out, this is Jiddu Krishnamurti's quote. This is from my book, Qigong for Beginners. This is chapter 4, and the title of the chapter is called Healing. Jiddu Krishnamurti says, find out for yourself, what are the possessions and ideals that you do not desire? Because I'll tell you right now, whatever you don't desire, they cause you pain. By knowing what you do not want, by elimination, you will unburden the mind, and only then will it understand the essential which is ever there. That is also a Zen concept, and the idea is our mind is in a quote-unquote dirty state, unenlightened state, but wash the mirror, wash the crystal, wash the diamond, and you realize the diamond is in a perfect state. But we've got to clean off the diamond. So when we start practicing the physical Qigong, I want you to think about that, because literally the movements that we make are metaphors. Yes, there's physical aspects. Yes, we're going to work with breath. Yes, we're going to change hormones. Yes, we're going to change blood. But we're also working with the mind, and Qigong on the level that it does becomes a form of prayer and intention. Everything's energy. So you can, when you work with prayer and intention, you're influencing energy. So when we start to go, yes, there's a breath aspect, there's a physical aspect, but you are washing the mind. What do monks do? Wash the floor, then they practice Qigong, then they wash the countertop. There's a lot of washing involved. Why? Because that underlying state is available to you. And for now, we're going to go into some physical practices. We're looking to discover that energy body. It's right there underneath the surface of the physical. Peace is the opposite of fear. It lives within you, and it is actually your immortal state. And it is actually this other that is the other. Notice how I said other? It's the anomaly. The anomaly is the weird movement, the weird vibrations, the heaviness that's on the outside. The underlying is ever still. And that is why in meditation and other practices like Qigong, we practice a devout stillness. Because as we practice a devout stillness, we become aware that the anomaly on the surface, the fear, the anxiety, the depression, all of that is not who we are. And when fear and anxiety and depression and things of that nature, when you realize shame, guilt. When you realize that is not who I am, you can work with it in the same way you would work with grease to get it off of you in a shower. And one day, after you scrub and scrub that grease, it comes off and you're left with what's called empty mind or Zen mind or clear mind. And what state do you think that state is when you wash and you cleanse and you clear? It's peace. And unlike Eckhart, I'm not there every day, but every day I know exactly how to get back to it. And I can go much further and longer than I ever have in my life to then go, oops, I went a little bit too far. Now let me come back to that still point within myself. Why? Because I want to get ahead of my life. Peace will always be, listen carefully, last one, and I promise, and then we're going to stand up and go. Your inner state creates the outer, right? So do you understand why it's so incredibly important wherever you find yourself, however you find yourself, to create a timeout for yourself? Because if you create peace right now, then you create a gap between all that craziness that's been going on in your life. That's called getting ahead of your life. Even if you don't think it's going to work, it will work. So as you get to a deep enough state of peace, a deep enough state of relaxation, enough clarity, raise your vibration, get your energy high enough, you're now in front of your life. Your life's going to start working for you rather than against you. But when you're depleted, when you're down and you're vibrating with these lower levels of energy and these lower levels of unconscious fear, your depression, your anxiety, your mind scattered, those are all signs of low levels of energy. When that happens, you're behind your life. You're going to get what we can now call the snowball effect. Snowballs are going to be coming, and it's not going to be fun. Because those vibrations are going to begin attracting people, places, events around you that are going to be chaotic because internally you're chaotic. Now you know the why of practice. So without further ado, let's stand up here and we're going to do some physical practices, share some physical practices with you that can begin to introduce you to the energy body. And I'm just going to make a couple shifts here real quick. All right. So coming out here, how are we looking? All right. So let's begin working with the mystery and the magic of physical Qigong practice. As we start rubbing our hands together, we're just going to go very light like this. By doing this mindfully, you gather your own attention. Have you heard this saying before? Can I have your attention, please? Please pay attention. You see signs that say attention. Gathering your own attention is very, very powerful. There are some secret places in the body where we can then bring our attention. So let's rub a little bit more vigorously. We're going to build up a little bit of heat, a little bit of chi. I'm not doing anything crazy, just a little bit quicker. Notice your breath. It will start changing your breath. What are we creating right here in our hands when we rub our hands together? Carrie, what are we creating? Aside from heat, heat is coming from what? What's this action? What does it create? Yeah, energy, but what form of energy? When we have something rubbing against something, what do we create? Friction. Friction creates heat. Heat is a big part of the healing process. Go ahead and place both hands to the lower belly, middle fingers touching each other. They're at the lower rim of the navel center. Make sure your knees are slightly bent. Tuck your pelvis slightly forward and then squat your weight down so that your tailbone, like imagine that it's plugging into the ground below you. And then hold yourself for a moment. Try and like, especially if you're new, go like this with your shoulders. You'll feel this tension in your shoulders. We're already starting to work with the emotional body, the pain body. If you're new, you can just keep your eyes open. As we get better at this exercise, we'll actually close our eyes and we'll go more deeply into a meditative state, but that takes some time to master that. So to start with, I'm just going to have you hold the posture, holding middle fingers touching together below the lower rim of the navel center. We are looking to ignite what is called the lower dantian. This is where true heat, we call true heat in Oriental medicine. This is where we set the lower abdominal area on fire. It burns. It will eventually burn. And it has the power to alchemize these old emotions, shift them, change them, cause the energy to rise up through the chakra ladder, which we may talk about a little bit more a little bit later. This is going to change your saliva. Notice if you're swallowing or wanting to clear your throat, things like that. Try and inhale through your nose. Exhale through your nose or mouth. March your feet like this. So that's a little introduction to that practice. We're going to be marching our feet like this. Very good for grounding. Also good for opening up those chakra centers in the feet and opening up the energy pathways in the legs. I'm also shaking my hands at the wrists and the arms. This is very good for the lymphatic system. I'm now going to step my feet out a little bit wider. I'm going to bring my hands up in the air and I'm going to shake like this. Also very good for the lymphatic system as well. Also notice where my hands are. They're up in the air. This causes the blood in the arms to drain down toward the heart. It gives more blood to the heart space and the work that we're doing there. And now I'm going to take my hands, I'm going to brush them on my pants. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to go again. We're going like this. Shake, light shake, relax shoulders. And then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go a couple more. Shaking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember I said earlier that peace is our natural state? 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to go to a little bit like a horse stance. So we want to get rid of excess energy, quote unquote heavy energy, or what we might think of as negative energy. Here's an exercise to do that and a couple of ways in which we can do it. This is called waterfall in our school. Sometimes it's called bringing down the heavens. We're going to just start with the hands, but notice the hands go across the floor. I don't want to just be sweeping up here. It's a grounding aspect. Then imagine like pulling up the ground to the heavens. And then bringing the heavens slowly down. Imagine you're pulling down the sky, but again, in our school, we tend to talk about this as water. So we come up here, there's a waterfall coming down, water washing over you. Can literally imagine yourself standing in a waterfall. Exhale your breath here through the mouth. Here, slowly inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. As you're sinking, slowly let the breath out at the same speed in which you're moving your body and your hands so that your breath finishes there. Slight tightening of your abdominal area and your core as you're exhaling that breath. And at the very end, a key detail here. When you exhale and get to the bottom, I want you to push the majority of your breath out, almost all of it. Hold it out for a second or two, and then inhale. Very important to get that pause at the bottom. So you exhale, And keep going with this one. Couple more. If you're only going to do one Qigong exercise, you don't want 21 days worth of Qigong exercises like we do in our 21-day Qigong challenge. And you're only going to do one exercise once in a while. Here's the one I recommend. Keep doing this one until you're ready for some others. Now, a nice one to do after several rounds or more like we just did of that one is to actually float our wrists up in the air like this, let the elbows hang heavy. And we're going to start you here actually today. Sometimes we'll go higher to the heart space, but I'm going to start you here around the navel center area roughly. It's like we're holding a ball here. In holding this posture, let me say something about that. I'm going to juggle speaking to you because I'm getting very warm inside and my chi is cranking up quite well right now. And I'm becoming very aware of my energy body. But for most of you, you'll just be aware of the pain and stiffness in your legs and other things like that when you're beginning. So when you're beginning this practice, the trick is to try your best to find a stance that somewhat works. The more you're in like this, the easier it's going to be. The less you bend your knees, the easier it's going to be. The further you go, the harder it's going to be. Wherever your stance is, you're trying to relax in that position, even though you're working to hold yourself up. So you're looking for the best combination you can, and I've seen a lot of folks as well do this with hardly at all bent knees, especially if they're older and have bad knees, bad hips, or whatever the thing is, and you're just holding like this. Either way, you're going to get a profound benefit from this exercise. And you're looking to try and find that place where you're able to stand there. You're not totally tensing your legs, but you need just enough tension to just hold yourself there. Just enough tension to hold yourself up so that you're standing somewhat like a tree. Inhale, exhale. Later, as you become more advanced with a practice like this, you can actually close your eyes and learn to start standing very still like this, and then you can really get in touch with your energy body. But that takes some practice over time, typically not in a day. From this position, notice how our hands are in this position here. We're going to go from that same position down to our waterfall. We're going to inhale. I want you to make the sound ah, like a sighing sound. Inhale. Ah, letting the stress come off or the tension that can also get built up in that exercise. It like comes to a head, and then you can begin to dissipate it. Good. Now, I want you to begin marching and kind of like hitting your foot not too hard, but not nothing either. Just a little thumping on the floor like you're marching. When you start practicing this Qigong stuff and you start holding some of these postures, you're going to be moving things around in your blood. You're going to be creating heat and generating heat in your tissues that is then being purged into the bloodstream. When that gets purged into the bloodstream, the blood is going to feel a little wonky. So you are going to therefore feel a little wonky. When that's happening, marching like this can have an excellent effect in that you're getting grounded, which is helping you stay stable with that situation. And also, when you're marching like this, you're increasing the circulation. So you have both of the calf muscles, which are considered to be the second heart. It's called the gastrocnemius, pumping blood back to the lungs to be reoxygenated, and then back to the heart to then get pumped out to the rest of the body. So marching like this, there's a reason, as I often say to people, that soldiers march. Somebody picked up on it a long time ago, that this is very energizing. All right, but we do something different with Qigong. We're going to go from marching like this, as if we're almost kind of doing a light end aerobics. But then from this same position, step your feet back out. Go right back to holding like this ball. Let that energy come up through your body. Kind of sink your weight so you feel grounded, somewhat grounded, because this energy is going to want to rise like this. Two principles within Qigong. One is gathering as much energy as you can on one hand, but the other one is staying grounded in the presence of that energy. If you don't have that combination, you cannot get the greatest effect that is available to you. So stay with that just for a moment or two longer here. Take a deep breath through your nose, slow. Can inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Exhaling through the mouth helps you ground. Very good. Just brief march like so. And please do that. If you feel lightheaded or anything at home, whatever, march and or sit down for a minute before you do the next part of what we're going to do. Next part of what we're going to do is you're an energy field. There are certain exercises that will help you to also, some other variety, that will help you to begin to sense that you're an energy field. We're going to do this first one, which is the second version of this. It's difficult, so we're only going to do it for a very short period of time. Why is it difficult, though? It is difficult because of this thing called the pain body. The pain body has a lack of flow in it. A lack of flow related to what? A lack of flow, there's pain in there, there's resistance in there, there's emotional resistance in there, and that pain body, that emotional body, is peopling your life, meaning it's attracting the people in your life, but it also has a very direct effect on your physical body and how your physical body feels. So let's just use it as a little test, okay? We're just going to test and just see what's going on in your body. So watch. Elevate your wrists like they're being pulled up by puppet strings like so. Okay? Keep the elbows hanging heavy. I want the elbows like this. I don't want the elbows like this. I want the elbows like this, even when I turn my hands. Now I'm going to bring my two middle fingers together, and then I'm going to round out my elbows, but I don't want to lift them up. I'm going to leave them hanging like this. And we're going to stay like this. And whenever you start to feel like tension in your shoulders, too much or something, whatever, I just go like this, especially as a beginner. Just go like this. But we're going to do a little test. And the test is, how long does it take before you start feeling that tension and stiffness in your shoulders and in your neck? For some of you, it'll be right away. For some of you, it'll be in 30 seconds, 60 seconds. I want to tell you a secret. It's pretty profound, actually. You're getting in touch with your emotional body. That's huge. I'll tell you more about it later, but it's huge. It's huge. It hurts. It doesn't feel good. You're going to feel a stiffness. You're going to feel an achiness. That's the part you're not going to like. But I'll tell you later why that's good news. But I just want you to feel it. You feeling it yet at home? Like I said, some of you feel it right away. Most people by now are feeling some degree of something, okay? In an advanced practice of this, I would close my eyes, I would lower my posture slightly, and in my work and in my world, we call this becoming the posture. What that also means is that the headmaster sets a timer, and let's say the timer's for 30 minutes. And in an advanced practice, you do everything you can within your willpower to stay in this position, relaxing as much as possible, moving as little as possible, and going for the ride, going for the experience. But that's a very advanced practice. But I just want to tell you that if that's possible, then you can probably do it for a minute or two and tough it out. Excellent. So wherever you're at with that, whatever you did with it, I want you to go ahead now, especially if you're still holding your hands together, but I want everybody to do it regardless. From this position, bring your hands back to this position if you need to. From this position, I want you to open up your arms like this. I want you to reach them up a little bit and stretch them this way. And then when you reach up and stretch like this, and I want you to imagine your own auric field like a bubble around yourself. And I want you to imagine you're stretching it out in that direction. And then as you come down this way, I want you to imagine that you're stretching it out. Look to one side, going way out as far as you can imagine one way, as far out as you can imagine the other way, going out. Okay, and then I want you to bring your hands and I want you to point them down, and I want you to sink your weight slightly, and I want you to put your mind like deep into the ground. Imagine going deep into the ground, extending your mind that direction. And now I want you to make a gesture. We're going to go like hands sort of forward. We're going to pull around like behind us, that we're imagining that direction back there. And then we're coming up again, and then we're going forward. So now we're going to work with our energy ball, okay? So from here, this is called Wei Qi. We're going to breathe here. Your energy ball, you're going to make it big like this. Look one direction, look the other direction. Exhale here. Oh, full energy from the ground. Exhale here. Oh. Inhale. That's your auric field. Now go back the other way. That's waterfall. Auric field. Inhale. Exhale. Ah. Go down here. See, make it round. Round it, round it. That's your auric field. Inhale. Exhale. Come around. Ah. Now we want to stretch this bubble further. We're going to stretch it in an upward direction. Bring your hands together. You're going to interlace the fingers. When we pull from the ground, I want you to imagine like you're bringing energy up this way, like it's coming this way. And so you start bringing it up this way. And then you're going to go here. This one is called Upholding the Sky. It's one of the 8 brocades. You're just going to hold it there for a moment. There's different ways to do this one. Right now, we're just going to hold it. We are imagining stretching that auric field up above our head, but also we're pushing down with our feet. And then our auric field itself is stretching to the sides. And then we're going to release the fingers. We're going to come back down. We're going to do it again. Inhaling, pulling from the ground, reaching up above your head, holding, stretching. Exhale. Make that auric field big there as well. Up, reach, stretch, exhale. One more. Hold, exhale. Oh. Now notice the arms like bird's wings. Collapse in, open up, collapse in, open up. Exhale here, inhale here, exhale here, inhale, exhale. This is like washing inside the auric field. One more. Now, right from here, inhale, same one we just did. Stretch it auric field again. Exhale your breath right here, stretching, stretching, stretching. Finish, exhale, inhale one more. And exhale. And go. Take your right hand, reach over to the left sleeve of your shirt and give it a little tug with your elbow somewhat high like this. Take your left hand, and I'm going to also show you, I'm going to turn around, face the other way so you guys can see it from that direction as well. So I'm going to pull the shirt. I'm going to take my left hand, and we're going to do the most basic version of this right now. And I'm just going to stick my palm out like this, like the police officer says, stop. And I'm going to put my palm like this. So it's looking like that. I'm pulling my sleeve, and I'm pushing over here. This is supposed to be like a bow and arrow. So this one now I'm going to pull a string. Okay? And then this exercise, we can also imagine like let it go, like fire your arrow. But when you fire your arrow, I'm looking at you guys at home, but when I actually fire my arrow, I want to look at the direction of my hand. So I'm firing my arrow. But notice what I'm also doing here, guys. So now start to, once you understand this, you don't need to grab the sleeve anymore. It's this pushing and pulling apart. This side pushes my bubble that way. This side is pushing my bubble back with that elbow like this. Now, the fancy part, somewhat fancy, if you will. This hand that's up in the air, I want to try and sweep across. It's not out here away from my body. It's in close, and I want to sweep. And then I'm going to gently pull here if I'm new. I'm going to pull here so I understand the motion. I'm going to push away with my right hand. I'm going to pull off my own t-shirt, pull like away from it. That's the firing of the arrow. I want to look in the direction of the arrow that I'm firing it. And then we'll bring this hand. It's going to sweep across, pull my own shirt. If I was this way at home, I'm pulling my shirt. I'm firing the arrow. I'm now taking this hand. I'm sweeping across. I'm going to take my other sleeve. As I pull the sleeve, I push away with this hand. And I'm going to pull, and I'm going to fire that arrow, okay? And then I'm going to come back to a waterfall where we go here, inhale, exhale. Do you feel the space growing in your body? Space is peace. Peace is space. Space is healing. That's our waterfall. If we wanted to further work with our auric field, one of the things that we could do a lot of things, but one of the things we could do is take the same exercise, come to a position like so, and instead of going from the side to stretch the bubble, see, side to side, I can just literally, my feet are together, I step back with a foot, and I'm going to put I'm going to do my left hand. You guys at home can either mirror me and do the right hand or the left hand, whichever is easiest to understand. But if I just put my hand straight out in front of me toward my computer, and then just make sure you're not going to fall down, kind of like try and find a staggered stance where you're not going to fall down. And then from this position, another way to do it, now that you maybe understand that, is just from here, just come up to your other hand and imagine you're pulling back the bowstring. So in one movement, it's pull back the bowstring, and then you would let go, for example, if you wanted to fire your arrow. Feet back together, then go with the opposite hand that you just did. Same direction, stretching my bubble that way. I'm going to put my other hand out in front of me, whichever hand I did not use. I'm going to use my right hand. I come here like I'm pulling the string, and I'm going to pull the string. I'm going to look in that direction, and I'm going to let go, and I'm going to fire that arrow forward. I come this way. Inhale. Exhale. Slight variation. As we're coming down, look at this like a washboard. Like washing side to side, doing a little scrubbing. Remember I told you we're going to do some washing? Oh. This is, you can imagine like washing it down the drain. Oh. And then come back to a waterfall. Slow. Watch what we're going to do with this waterfall. We're going to breathe in, hold the breath. Hold it in your lower belly by pushing it down, and we're going to slowly, slowly let the breath out.
We lost you.
Take one hand, roll it, close your fist with your forefingers, thumb is out. Then take the thumb and put it over your first two fingers and close that to your hip. So that motion isn't just going to be, it's more mindful than that. It's like you're wrapping up all that energy. You're closing your fingers, making them tighter. It's not super strong, but it's like every little motion is there, every little nuance. Then you're rotating your wrist, your hand, your arm very mindfully. That's coming out to the side. Your thumb wraps in, and it starts becoming a pulling motion that goes backwards. That elbow goes backwards as if stretching that auric field back that way.
Yep, it's got
But we
berries.
can also now stretch to the front, this left hand out in front of you, pushing your field here. And now you have that understanding of that movement. I'm going to show you just
I have
this
a
last
favor to
practice,
ask.
then back to
Sharon Chan,
waterfall,
can
then a
she
little break,
mute her?
and shifting into
Good.
other things. So
You're
from
doing.
here, wrapping that up, all four, wrapping it up, thumb, bringing this in. Now we have both hands like this, both arms like this. This hand that you just brought in, we're going to make a sound, shh, like telling someone to be quiet, shh. As I do that, I'm going to extend with my palm forward and I'm going to go, shh. Now I'm going to breathe in through my nose. As I make that motion, I'm going to hold my breath. Now the other hand, I'm going to go, shh. Now I'm going to inhale as I do this. The breath, the belly, everything goes to my belly, including the hand and the arm. And then I shh. From here of holding the breath, I'm going to exhale. I'm going to inhale. Shh. I'm going to bring my hands together. My feet are closer together. My hands will come together in what we call prayer pose. If you're standing and you're new, I recommend keep your eyes open. You're a little bit more advanced with your practice. We tend to close our eyes, but you have to make sure you're grounded. Remember, you have feet, and you have to get used to these higher levels of energy while staying grounded in the presence of those higher levels of energy. But I'm going to tell you all a secret. This could be the part where you quit and you run away real quick and go, whew, thank God, let me get a drink of water. You can do that in a minute. But I'm going to tell you a little secret. If you want to feel and experience your energy body, I'm going to give you a minute or two to do it, because this is an excellent place to do it. Don't hurt yourself. If you need to sit down, please sit down. You need water, get some water. But if you feel like you can go another minute or two and just feel your insides, where you feel this warmth and you feel some movement, you also feel places that are stuck, and you just sit there and you observe it, and you bring your attention to your third eye, to this area between the eyebrows, the forehead, and then you move your mind down to your feet, because you want to pay attention to the fact that you have feet the entire time. I do not want to see people's eyes rolled up into the back of their head looking through their crown chakra. That will lead you to falling down. And I want you to stay in your body and experience something of a deeper nature of your energy body and the peace that lives just underneath that resistance and that stagnation and that pain. Wherever you're at with that, take a deep breath through your nose. Exhale that breath through your mouth. Why the mouth? Exhaling through the mouth is more grounding. We do that a lot in Qigong, a little bit different than yoga, most yoga systems. And we're going to now just kind of pound our feet on the floor a little bit. Excellent. Grab yourself a little sip of water, have a seat, and we're going to get right back to it. People still there? Cool. Let's go. All right. So just going to keep rolling here. Hopefully you enjoyed that. So many Qigong practices, and many people will ask, what's the best style? It's like martial arts. There's like 300 different martial arts styles. What's the best style? Well, what style do they teach in your neighborhood? What style makes the most sense to you? What teachers do you resonate with? Not everybody likes every teacher. So you have to find something that makes sense to you. And then, as I said before, with martial arts, like when I walked in, I mentioned earlier that I have these black belts, for example. In martial art and in Qigong, like in our Qigong style, right? We have 5 different levels in our certification program, for example. Well, if you look at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for example, which I'm also a teacher of, we have 5 ranks. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, but there's like colored belts, right? And in some ways, you can look at that, and in my business, they always talk about you got to know that anything that comes to the West that was something very deep spiritual in the East, it's going to get commercialized, and it has, and it's going to get watered down, and it has. And as much as I believe for you yourself, you have to become your own master, and it's not just about blindly following other people's systems. Systems are important on the level that they are, because you can see a progression, and you also realize there is a progression. Because a lot of people come in, like, it would be ridiculous. You would think yourself, any one of you would think, for me to walk into a martial arts school and I don't know any martial arts, it would be ridiculous for me to think that I could stand toe to toe with a real black belt and spar with them. That would be extremely dangerous for you, right? Unless they were super, super nice like I am. But it would be extremely dangerous, right? They know so much, you can't even imagine what these people know. Like a real black belt, not just somebody that got one. And in the real, just so you have a reference, in the deeper schools of martial art, you cannot get a black belt until you're 18 years old. So you have 15-year-olds and 12-year-olds these days that are getting black belts. There's a lot of schools that I train with. We don't acknowledge any of that. Till you're 18 years old, the bare minimum, and you'd have to be a phenom to get a black belt at 18. But 18 is the earliest that you can get it. My point is, there is a progression. And one of the reasons that I highly recommend you understand in whatever capacity some type of progression is that you understand that 5 years from now, you're probably going to be here. 10 years from now, you're going to be here. 20 years, some of you 30, 50 years, you're going to be here. What state do you want to be in, right? And some of you may say, oh, well, I only have, I'm X number of years old. I probably will only live 5 years. Well, I already told you earlier, I'm sort of like, take it for what it's worth. But I knew about the concept of reincarnation before anyone taught it to me, because as a kid, as a child psychic, if you want to call it that, simplest way to say it to you, I had psychic perception as a child. I knew that the people that I was living with, I didn't necessarily have the words like other lifetime, but like I saw faces in them that I didn't recognize them. And I didn't know what it was, but I was seeing things in their energy body. So anyway, there's a lot to us. We live way longer than we realize. So regardless of where you are in your journey, stay with it, keep working with it, because 5 years, 50 years, 100 years, and as some of my teachers say, 10,000 years, I know it's radical, but you might be here, might still be here. As the Dalai Lama likes to say, be nice to everyone because you're about to meet him again. Be nice to everyone. Have compassion for everyone because you're about to meet him again. Okay, David, you're just saying that because you read it in some book. No, when I was growing up, my parents told me they loved me, but they didn't necessarily show me all the time that they loved me. It was a dysfunctional environment on the level that it was. I know some people have had it worse, and I know some people have had it better, so it's relative. But I was afraid at home. And I was afraid at school, and the bullies picked up on that. They can smell that. They can smell it when you're afraid. They can smell it when you're already being abused and you're already being picked on. And it creates a train and a chain of events. I told you I have a psychology background. One of the studies that they've done many times within the psychology world is they'll bring in like people who are murderers, rapists, and so on, and they'll have them sit behind the glass. And they'll say, pick 5 women out of this room. It's typically women, but pick 5 women out of this room that you would attack. They pick the people who've been raped and abused and violated in the past right away. Boom, 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 boom. Her. They nail it. It's like 90-something% every time. Every time. So there is a vibe that we give off. Now, just in that same way, like I had a certain degree of abuse when I was a kid. I attracted that in return. I didn't know I had the kick me sign on, but I had the kick me sign on. So I could have spent the rest of my life trying to blame everybody else, blame my parents, blame everything that happened, blame my teachers, blame the kids that picked on me, blame everybody that was involved in me getting run over by a trailer, sued the people who owned the farm. I didn't do any of that. I turned my whole life toward ancient spiritual practices. My mom, to this day, she started even when I was a teenager. She goes, my son, he thinks he's Asian, And so I turned myself toward these disciplines. I remembered on a very deep level who I am. You hear people talk about lifetimes and different things. Like I said, I had visions from the time I was a kid. I find this fact very interesting. Do you know? I've been to some very high-level psychics, very highly paid psychics that train different psychic schools and all kinds of different stuff. People who work for the police, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, you know what's very interesting? Without me going in dressed like this at all, right? Going in normal, casual dress, every one of them has said to me, monk many lifetimes, Chinese medicine, herbologist, healer, not you work on computers, not, oh, and by the way, every one of them martial arts guy. You may be able to decipher that, you may not, but every single one of them, boom, 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 boom. So my point is, when you start waking up, because I told you a theme today was going to be in relationship to peace, I was also going to be talking about awakening. Eckhart talks a lot about awakening, many other teachers and teachings. Anyway, I told you I was going to be talking about this. For me, when I started waking up, imagine waking up from the perspective now of remembering who you are, but also remembering who your soul is, what you've been doing as a soul for the, I know it's a radical idea, but what you've been doing as a soul for the last 5,000 years or last 100 years, whatever it is. Imagine waking up to that. That's what happened to me when I walked in to meet my first master. And you know what happened when I walked in and I met that first master and I trained and I dedicated myself to that stuff to several years? I had experiences that I then turned around, told my master, and then the master said, you need to go see this teacher. You need to go see this master. You had that experience? You need to go see this teacher because he's going to take you to the next level. And you know what happened when I met that teacher? Some of those teachers, they didn't even know each other. They didn't communicate like on that level with each other. I'd go to the next teacher and that teacher would say, just like you see in the movies with like Karate Kid or something, but they literally would say, we've been waiting for you. And then they would say, let us tell you about you. And then literally spent the next half hour telling me more about myself than anyone in my life would ever know other than me. And some of it had to jog my own memory. That's how psychic they are, if you will, how all-knowing that they are. So I encourage you, highly encourage you, to awaken to who you are as a spirit and as a soul. It is not so much about what exactly you're meant to do. You could serve tea, you could open a tea shop, I could open up a martial arts school, I could open up a bookstore. I just have been naturally gifted as a healer, and so I use those abilities. It's been happening. I was doing healing work on people and being drawn to do healing on people. This is how profound Qigong is. Healings were happening through me. I wasn't even asking or looking to be a healer. Healings were happening through me. And I hadn't even healed my spine yet. I hadn't even had my deeper awakenings yet. I had a guy come to a program in Colorado some years ago where we did healing work. People were doing healing work on each other. We did Qigong first, and then we did healing work on each other. And he had been in a car wreck. He was approximately, he was in his 70s. I don't remember exactly how old. But he didn't walk well, didn't stand well. He had a cane. He had 2 physical therapists at least hovering around him the entire time. We did Qigong for about 40 minutes. We finished the Qigong session, and he raised his hand and said, can I ask you a question? I said, what's the question? He said, why am I still standing? And then his physical therapists all nodded their head. Yeah, why is he still standing? We don't understand. For months we've been working with him. We can't get him to stand without a cane. He's standing without a cane. Why? I said, well, that's the magic of Qigong. Was my simple answer. And then we went on to practice doing healing work with each other. So I had 2 people get together, as I often do in seminars and different things, and I had one start sending energy to the other. And as he started, he wanted to do it. He's still standing, which is his favorite line. We'll get to that part. And he's sending energy. It's his turn to send energy. He starts sending energy to this young woman who's standing there in standing tree meditation, receiving the energy, right? And she's going, you can see her going through a really nice like healing experience, color in her face. I mean, she's glowing, right? He's sitting there with his finger, like going like this, looking like he might fall down. And so the physical therapist is standing right next to him. Anyway, when they finish, he does a profound healing. That guy was the last one standing at the end of the seminar. We had 30-something people there. They all left. He was the last one. He stood at the front desk and he told every single person that walked out the door, I'm the last one standing. I walked all the way down that hall and all the way back. Do you see me standing? I'm still standing. I'm the last one standing. That's the magic of the energy body. When you start working with the energy body and you start working with intention and you get beyond the idea that you are your physical body, just enough to practice. I'm not saying you have to 100% believe it or whatever, but you got to get a little bit over the idea that you're just a physical body. You got to get over the idea just a little bit that you're not your guilt, your shame, your fear, those things that you feel, which by the way are all hormonal. You can't feel fear unless you have the hormones of fear running through your body. You cannot. You can't. As a martial artist, which is a metaphor for you guys, but I'm an actual martial artist, but for you it's a metaphor. When I step up and I got that big guy that wants to choke me out and beat me up, and we're going to spar, and it's rough the way we do it, and I stand there, every single time I walk up to that line where we're across from each other, and these days, it took me a lot of years to develop it, but I walk up with what we call Zen mind, no mind. I have no fear about it, none, zero. I'm also not asleep, and I'm also not aggressive. I have none of those things going on. I am not aggressive. I am not asleep. I am aware. I am awake. I am alert. I'm ready. I'm relaxed, and I have let go of my attachment to what happens next. That is something that when you practice your Qigong, you'll be driving in the car and something stressful starts to happen or whatever's going on, or you get the phone call or whatever. And again, I'm not going to be able to teach you to do it in a day, but I promise you, even over 21 days, a Qigong challenge, which I highly recommend you all do, 21 days, 10 minutes a day, 21 days, Qigong challenge. That warms you up, but you're not going to be able to do it after 21 days, a Qigong challenge. It's going to take some number of years, but then you can get to a place where you're fearless in the face of something that would terrify the person sitting next to you. And I'm going to tell you something else for those who have the capacity to grab it. That's how miracles happen. Let's say, let's do it. Let's do it. It'll be our meditation for today, okay? I want you to pick something in your life that's been disturbing you, bothering you, and it can be a series of 3 or 4 things if you can't come up with one. But if you have one pressing thing, then you know what that is. And it could be something physical that you have going on. It could be somebody else that's like, it's really bothering you in your life, that's so-and-so, your wife, your husband, your best friend, somebody is really suffering and it just really causes you. I want you to try and pick something. I'm going to take a minute or two because I want you to try and pick something that is like visceral to you. Like when you think about that subject, it immediately comes up in your throat. You feel it in your body. There's an angst to it. And everybody has one of those. So look around and find out what it is. Because if you take that one, which is what we're going to do, you take that thing, and it can be somebody else's thing. This is what I do as a healer all the time. It could be somebody else's thing, their vibe. They're freaking out about that thing. You can shake hands with that feeling to where I'm feeling what they're feeling, right? And then I alchemize it, I change it, I shift it. That's where the miracle comes from. That's where the transformation comes from. There's different ways to explain that. But basically the idea is that you're taking it into meditation, you're taking it into stillness, you're not freaking out about it. Rather than trying to push it away, which is called projection in psychology, and in metaphysics we also call it projection, because when you project it away, you know what it's going to do? It's going to come back in another form or the same form. It's not going to go away. This is why we say in law of attraction, that which you resist persists. So instead, we're going to do something opposite. We're going to embrace it. We're going to breathe into it and through it. And what's going to make this also exceptionally more powerful, exponentially more powerful, is the fact that we're going to do it together, which is similar to what we do in distance healing program on Wednesday nights. People gather together with their intentions, and then the energy becomes exponential. Why? Because two or more people are focused on a common intention. Creates exponential energy. So let's do it. You ready? You got your thing? And if you can't think of anything, then I'm going to give you one other choice, and that is just pick a person that you know needs your love, needs your attention, needs your healing. Pick that person and send energy to that person. Send your thoughts to that person while we hold the meditation. I'm going to guide you through the meditation. Here we go. Find yourself physically still on your chair or however you're sitting or standing. I want you to find your breath. Don't do anything with your breath. Just find it. What is it doing? Are you holding your breath? If you are, no problem. Just observe it. If your breath, and when your breath goes in, when your breath goes out, just observe it. Just observe your breath. What is it doing? If you find yourself falling asleep with this exercise, please keep your eyes open. You can also gently bite the tip of your tongue to wake you back up. You can also wiggle your fingers and toes if you need to wake yourself back up. People who do not have strong, subtle energy easily fall asleep when it comes to meditation. So do your best to stay awake during this guided meditation. Be physically still, eyes open or closed. Imagine the person. And because we're doing Qigong and we're doing Qigong healing, and because I want you to stay awake for a moment, I want you all to open your eyes and look at the position of my hands. And I want you to make this position of your hands and your arms. You're sending healing to that person. You're sending healing to that situation that you're having in your life. And regardless of whether it's to that person or it's literally to yourself, your own body and your own life, I want you to see the series of problems and challenges that you're having there. I want you to feel them. And right in the presence of them, right in the presence of them, I want you to open your heart. Right in the presence of them, I want you to open your heart. In other words, I want you to feel love. I want you to feel breath. I want you to feel bigger presence, the presence of your spirit. I want you to feel the presence of this group. I want you to feel the presence of light. And you might imagine that as a glowing ball of sunlight in your chest. And you're breathing. And I also want you to simultaneously notice the tension that you feel in your arms, your shoulders, anywhere where your body is aching, because that is something within your emotional body that is in the process of being transformed right now. I want you to notice right now, and you can set your arms down at any time, but pick them back up as needed to stay awake and alert. I want you to notice what's happening in your saliva. Is your saliva growing at the back of your throat? Are you on the verge of swallowing some new saliva? Do you feel some changes going on in your blood? If you do, and you will, most of you will, the moment you gain enough momentum, it's also going to start shifting and changing your breath. It's also going to start making you hotter. You are literally shifting the hormones in your own body, your own blood. You're shifting the energy in your body. You're shifting the emotional body, which is connected to people across time and space. And therefore, you will also bring them healing. So you can keep your hands like that when needed, or set them in your lap as you desire to do so. The collective group is hovering just above the navel center, which means we're moving out of victimization and we're starting to move toward our power center, which is the third chakra. So good job. Stay with that. Let's see if we can take it a bit higher. The heart is still a ways away. So let's see if the group can stay awake long enough and disciplined enough to do the practice, to keep bringing the energy higher. So I want to give you this mantra, this idea, this thought right now. And I want you to say to yourself, you can say it out loud if you want, but you can also just say it in your head. My vibration is increasing. My vibration is increasing. You can say to the energy itself, energy, vibration, increase. Go higher, go higher, go higher, go higher. That's the thought that you have, and then you leave it alone. You're instructing the energy consciously and deliberately. Don't go to sleep. Don't fall asleep. That part's very important. Stay with it. How is it shifting your saliva? How is it shifting your breath? And then kind of remember, what was my problem? Because notice it's already changing. Your problem is not as serious as it was a moment ago because it's becoming more like liquid. It's more liquid-like. There's a little bit more fluidity in it. Say to yourself, I desire to breathe power into this situation. If I desire to breathe power into this situation, that means I desire to breathe peace into this situation. Where does peace come from? Peace comes from my own presence, my own inner light. My own inner light is becoming exponentially stronger right here, right now, in the face of this energy, this situation, this dynamic, this person, this body. My strength is growing as a spirit, as a soul. My strength is growing in energy. I'm becoming exponentially more powerful, gathering my energy with the group's energy. Majority of the group stuck today, differs from group to group, day to day, but stuck right along the lower part of the mid-back, along the kidneys, along the rear part of the solar plexus. This would be related to anxiety. This would be related to fear, also related to worry. And we need to move that energy higher. We're moving through those emotions up to the power center. So some of you are going to be feeling weird and wonky in your blood because we are absolutely shifting the biochemistry that is going on currently in your body. Pay attention to your saliva, your breath, your temperature. All of those things are going to be influenced and affected. Please stay awake. If you need to open your eyes and wiggle your fingers, do that until you become more disciplined to stay still, quiet, etc. All right, I want you at home to go ahead and make a sound. You all can make this sound here too as well, and make it out loud. The sound is the sound Ra, like Ra of the sun, like the sun god, but you roll it. Ra. Ra. You can also just listen to me make the sound. Watch what it's going to do to your solar plexus. Deep inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth or nose. Before you give up, before you quit, before you stop, bring your mind right to the forehead, your own forehead, eyes open if need be. Glaring sort of straight ahead, don't be looking all around the room. When you're going to fire an arrow, your mind's attention comes to the forehead, comes to the frontal lobe of the brain. That's where concentration is. I want you to bring your concentration and your attention there with a soft gaze, but a strong concentration to the best of your ability. And I want you to watch your breath. I want you to imagine stretching your inner auric field, stretching outward around your body, going out about 3 feet around your body, 3 to 6 feet. I'm also going to quote unquote vibe you with doing what I'm doing. So even if you feel like you can't do that, just kick back and feel what you're feeling, because we're going to dissipate further what we've brought to the table to heal here today. Now completely relax your healing work. Stay in meditative state for a moment. Let go of any effort that you're making whatsoever. Keep feeling and sensating what you're feeling and sensating. Try and stay awake. Now take your hands and arms, put them out to the side like we did earlier. Stretch your auric field. Put your arms up above your head. Stretch your auric field. Stretch your auric field. Look around. Look around. Like imagine you're very, very big. Bigger than the situation. Bigger auric field. Bigger energy. This is what I like to talk about when I say be the bigger wave. Purposefully inhale your breath. Exhale. Oh. Once again, little trick of the trade. Bring your hands here to the heart space. Right back to a brief meditation, but this is putting the cherry on the cake, asking the energy to actually rise up to your heart center. In your own mind, say something like this. The Buddhists call it metta meditation. You're sending thoughts of loving kindness to someone. Can pick the same person, can pick your own life, can send it to somebody else. But I'm turning you all into healers right now, so glance around your world and look at someone, see them on the level of the mind, see their house, see wherever it is that you believe that they are, wherever you imagine them, and then just say to that person, I offer you light. This group offers you light. Same person or same 2 or 3 people, whatever you can focus on simultaneously. I offer you love. This group offers you energetic, vibrational, deep, deep love. As you scan your environment, connect with someone, couple someones, beloved, I offer, along with the exponential power of this group, I offer you deep, deep, radiant peace. Relax your hands, but stay in the meditation. Whatever words you like, I'll do a bunch of them so you grasp the concept, but we're also doing some real life healing work right here. Beloved Tao, beloved Holy Spirit, beloved light, right now, for the purposes of healing, may your light move through me like a great river. Beloved existence, may high vibrational light move through me and my heart space for the purposes of healing. Those that I am seeing, those that I am praying for, those that I am intending for, may it move through me like a great river. May it shine through me like a great sun. May this light, the light that's moving through me, may this offer to these entities a deeper peace. And then take a deep breath. And then for just a brief moment before you come back to the outer, so to speak, just hold a thought. We'll do this at the end of our program again today as well, but just hold a thought for a moment of gratitude that there's enough like-minded people who have come here today from all over the world to actually gather around some really weird stuff, what most people would consider really weird stuff. But those that are remembering who and what we are, we actually look at the world and think a lot of what's going on here is kind of silly and weird. There's a depth in what we're doing, and there's a power when people join in this way. And so I take a moment of gratitude to just feel that gratitude for all of you being here and for all of us having the opportunity to join together and send those prayers out to the people that we did, those intentions out to the people that we did. I've been doing this for a long time, and it has profound impact on those around you. Go ahead and take 3 breaths. Inhale, exhale. Then brush your hands of the work. This is how I've been doing it for years. This is how I teach it to my students. This is like clearing yourself, letting go, let those people go, come back to yourself, disconnect from that link that you made. Brush off the face. Clap the hands a little, brush the hands. Pull that energy off. And let's go right into a standing Qigong so that we can clear that all out further. Anything that we might still need to further alchemize, anything that we might need to clear off, including attachments to other family members or people that you might have been seeing and working on. You guys can come on out and practice out here. We're going to go right back to this where we're rubbing our hands. We're going to exhale our breath to get grounded as we go, because that can make you feel a little ungrounded and wonky. Inhale. Slowly releasing the breath, slowly. Pushing it into the ground. Waiting, 1, 2, coming up. Take the left hand, go out to the side. The right hand's going to come up the center line of the body. And then we're going to kind of just do like a little circling motion here 1 time. And then we're going to go down the arm. Rather than bending over to get to my fingertips, bring the fingertips up so that the hand passes over the hand. We're going to go to this side. Pulling up. This is called the Sea of Qi, lower dantian, sometimes called the Sea of Qi. We're bringing energy from here. Go over the face. Wash the arm. That's an inhale. That's an exhale. Lower dantian is here. Middle dantian is here. Upper dantian is here. We circle upper dantian down the arm. Lower dantian is here. Through middle dantian to upper dantian, we circle once or twice. Wash the limbs back to a waterfall. Exhale. Wei Chi we did earlier goes here. Out. Opposite direction of waterfall. Exhale. Inhale. We also did this bird wings. Inhale. Exhale. Waterfall. Shh. One more. This is a standing tree meditation. Knees are slightly bent. Feet roughly shoulder width apart, can be a little wider or a little less wide. Eyes open if you're new. If you feel ungrounded. Otherwise, you have become a very, very powerful conduit for healing energy. And if you made it this far and you can stand like this and keep your knees slightly bent, make it as relaxed as possible. Relax your shoulders as much as possible. Hold that heart mudra. Mudra is like a static position. You become a receiver like an antenna. You're receiving certain things. You're also giving off certain things. Vibration is definitely more powerful than it was just 5 minutes ago. Inhale, exhale. Take your hands briefly toward the sky. If you get dizzy at all, set them down right away. We're going to just do this for a brief moment here, maybe 20 seconds or so. Let the hands come down. Just kind of go like that. Get a little bit of a clap, then be still. Bend your knees. Arms here come out a little wide like you're holding a ball in your armpit. Settle your weight. This is called standing Wuji posture. Be very still. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very still. After all those practices, and then you come to a practice like this, you will start experiencing your energy body. I hope you did today already, but if not, keep doing it. You build up that energy. You come to this at the end of a class like that. You start doing this. You do this for 3 minutes or something. You're going to start sensating something much more than just your physicality. One time here, inhale. Exhale, go. One more. Last one. Excellent. One more time. Let's gather seated. We're going to close out the program here in the next few minutes. All right. So when we talk about Qigong, there's like 3,000 different styles, like I said. Traditionally, including acupuncture, I mean, this was always handed down from master to student. Now some people go to college for it. But for centuries, the keepers of the secrets have always been the master who handed it to the student, who then handed it to another student. And if there wasn't somebody who mastered the discipline, then that was it. Like it was dead in the water. So luckily, some people have been, have kept this stuff alive. Okay. But again, there's a practice to it. There's a reason that in a school, one person wears a white belt and somebody else has a black belt. And yes, there are some phony schools where, the black belt should probably be wearing a white belt too. But in the authentic idea behind those disciplines, a level 1 practitioner probably isn't going to be as advanced as the level 5 practitioner unless they've also already studied all this other stuff over here, So the point is there is a progression. It's something to build upon. A lot of people are looking for the quick fix. Believe me, I was too. I wanted the quick fix. At 15 years old, give me the quick fix so I can go back to my life. And then I realized there was no quick fix for my life. And one of the reasons that there's no quick fix for your life, I mean, you break your arm, you got to go to the doctors and you got to get it healed or something, you got to go get the arm casted or something, right? But whatever physical diseasement shows up in your life, it's all encompassing. Who doesn't it influence? It influences everybody you know, like everybody knows about it, everybody's talking about it, like it's all encompassing. And so then you start to realize, man, this is complicated because I've got 5, 10, 50 different things going on that I'm trying to manage. But the thing is how many centers do you have? You only have one center. You only have one inner space or inner being of your own presence, your own center space. You only have one of those. Everything else can be very confusing. And it will be confusing if you're allowing the program, which we call ego or the false self, to run the show. And if peace is important to you, and you actually understand like how law of attraction and stuff like that really works, that as I sow, I reap. I'm reaping what I've been putting off. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it does mean that you're vibrating with something in particular that's then giving you a certain feedback. If you don't like the feedback that's coming, change on the inside, because controlling the outer world is impossible, except through changing what's going on inside. By changing what's going on inside, you align with better opportunities, better people, all of that kind of stuff, because you yourself have become a better person. How many people are desperate? They have so much pain. That was me. I was growing up in that position, right? So the more that I practice peace, the more that I practice peaceful practices, meditation, Qigong. Martial art may not seem like peaceful practice to some people, but it's way more peaceful than war, especially when you are learning it for the purpose of being a peaceful warrior, which is what I did and many monks have done and so on. It's just hard Qigong. So hard Qigong may not be your thing, but soft Qigong may be your thing, or middle Qigong, or seated meditation, or standing meditation, or using mantra to focus over a period of time. What's a common denominator? We need practice, and we need practice with who? Yourself. And if you understand, and if you believe it, go back and listen to what I said earlier about the Taoist master talking about the throwing of the pebble into the pond. When you understand that's what's going on in your life, like I did not want to admit that or accept that when I was 21 years old, because I was journeying some really yucky stuff. But when I did, and then I'd go and sit in the forest for long periods of time, and I'd hear whispers from spirit, and then I started picking up books like Eckhart's book, although that wasn't available till later, but books like that and stuff. And they were coming to me, and books were jumping off of shelves at me, and I was practicing. I was prioritizing that peace and healing, those were priorities for me. And I stand as I do, or sit at the moment, but as a living example to you all of practice. You know, I'm not perfect. I'm not, you don't have to follow everything that I do. Hopefully I offered you something here today that makes sense to you, that maybe is helpful to you. But I'm offering you yet one more, and not bragging about how much I practice, but saying to you that the work would already be gone if I hadn't practiced as much as I practiced. And I don't want you to think that you've got to go 40 years to get your healing. But like, if we look back at my story, everybody's story is different. But in my story, with all of what I had going on, it took me 13 years. 13 years of nowhere near the kind of discipline that I have now. Like way more now, because now I have way more confidence than I did in the beginning. So with less effort than I put in now, I healed that spinal disease, which, by the way, everybody I went to, including the healers I went to, they all said, they either A, said we have no way to heal it, or B, they said it's impossible. I never met with one person. I became the guy that now meets people and they tell me I got X, Y, and Z, and I literally say to them, it's possible, you can heal it. Why? Because mind coupled with energy is that powerful over time. Over time, over one drop, over two drops, over three drops, when you can gain enough momentum, it'll flip like a switch. And sometimes I watch it happen right in the middle of a healing session. We did a healing session right here in this room, and one of our local guys, Tom, who was going to have his gallbladder taken out on Monday, didn't even tell me he had a gallbladder issue. I did some healing on him, hands off, field therapy, and literally looked and said to the whole room, Tom just had a liver gallbladder release, because he had a deep breath in his solar plexus. You rarely see that unless that specific area of the body is opening up. I said, liver gallbladder release. That Monday, he went to the doctors expecting maybe I'm going to have my gallbladder taken out. The surgeon said, I've never seen numbers turn around like this. The state you were in on Friday, the numbers you came back with on Monday, this is impossible. This is like crazy. I hear this a lot. That's why I've been in private practice for 30 years, full time. That's been my, main job. And as I've heard it many times. But I understand, like, somebody like me at 15, it took 13 years. So what I try and do for you all to the best of my ability is cut that time in half, cut that time in half, cut that time in half, help you get to where you want to go as soon as possible. But you do have to understand it's a cumulative effect. Don't be disturbed by that. Put it to work for you. One drop of peace in a month isn't enough to do hardly anything. But 100 drops of peace in 30 days is enough to make a difference. 5 minutes of practicing a meditation or a Qigong posture, 5 minutes, you're dripping peaceful hormone into your blood. You are. It takes actually about 2 to 3 minutes. So 5 minutes, it's a solid thing. You're pouring, well, at least you're dripping peaceful hormone into your blood. After 10 or 15 minutes, you're pouring peaceful energy into your blood. But here's the thing, my job is to help you with context so you don't get discouraged. Why would someone stand for 5 minutes? They're dripping, according to David, you're dripping peaceful hormone into your blood, happy hormone into your blood. Why would you feel all wonky afterwards? I told you. Because you're messing with your own biochemistry, and you have all that stress hormone now that when you practice your Qigong, it's pouring out of your tissues into your blood. The poisons are, so that your body can then get rid of them. So you should feel wonky. If you feel a little wonky, you know you're doing something right. But why don't I feel peaceful? Well, because the tipping point of balance within your own bag of biochemistry has not yet gotten to a place where the majority of the hormone at this particular hour of the day, based on your practice, is resonating to peace. Because this peace we're talking about, it's not out there somewhere. I know it's confusing because it's multidimensional. It involves your physicality, but it also involves your emotionality, and it also involves your spirituality. And that spirituality involves the energetic aspect, and the hormones are communicating with the energetic aspect, and the energetic aspect is communicating on those little tiny cells in your body all the way down to the DNA. And I know it's complicated because it's multi-dimensional, but the practice is not complicated because there's one you, and you can decide you're going to practice, and you can decide to gain some mastery over your biochemistry. And if you gain some mastery over your biochemistry, you gain some mastery over peace. Why? Because peace doesn't just live out there somewhere, it lives within you. And if you change it inside of you, then it changes what's going on outside of you. How? How does it change what's going on outside of you? It changes what's going on outside of you because you're going to line up with people coming from a different perspective. And even in those rare moments where you meet the angry person on the bus and you're in a state of peace, guess what's going to happen? I know. Number one, they're going to tell you their story. Number two, you're going to listen. You're going to have compassion for them, and you're going to watch a healing unfold in the face of a stranger right in front of you. And as you give that, so shall you receive that. And in the early years, it'd make me go home and I'd weep about it a little bit, like I was unworthy of the experience. Now I do it so often, it's just commonplace. This is what I do. And I feel happy about having done it, and on, you know, because it's all good karma. So you change your life through these practices. But again, if I were to practice martial art a couple times, ha, ha, yeah, ha, ha. And then now I go out there and expect that I'm going to be able to defend my family from somebody trying to attack them like that. They might think it's funny. That could work. Maybe it's a high-level martial art. It looks funny. But my point is, I can't expect to walk into a karate class one time and then be able to defend myself for the rest of my life. Qigong is the same way. If you want this kind of stuff, you have to put in some time. Whether it's 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, no, I'm not telling you to do it all, but you know, even the 21-day Qigong challenge, I say it again, if you haven't done it, check it out. We literally filmed it here local in the trees, beautiful surrounding, 10 minutes a day. Why 21 days? Because it takes 21 days to create a habit. When your habits become the kinds of habits that I'm talking to you guys about, how could I rattle this off? How could I go from Eckhart Tolle to Tony Robbins to Jiddu Krishnamurti to talking about inner being, healing my spine, talking about power and peace and energy bodies and acupuncture? How could I do all that if that had not become my habit for the last 40 years? Impossible. I cannot get to where my masters are tomorrow. My masters who are 80 years old, I am not going to get to where they are tomorrow. You have to start where you are, but you have to understand everything has a cumulative effect. Do the work, do it over a month, put your focus and your attention on it, stay with it. You will make changes. The moment you make positive changes, guess what? It just got easier because you believe in it more, you have greater confidence. Not to mention, guess what? I got one more for you. I'm looking at some of them right here. When you start practicing these kinds of things, you start attracting people around you who shine bright light. Just like all of you at home who've met with me here today, you shine a bright light. We're starting to attract each other. What do you think we would talk about if we hung out for dinner? Do you think we would go on and on? Do you think I would go on and on to you about all of my problems and suffering that I have going on in my life? Or do you think we would talk about all the problems that are going on in the world? Or do you think we would talk about practice? Did you practice this week? What did you practice? How often did you practice? Et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So practice makes perfect. Have fun with it. Thanks so much for joining me today. And thank you to the Love, Peace, Amen Foundation for sponsoring this. I'm getting the cutoff from the president, and because she knows I could talk for 10 hours. And no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So thank you guys. And so many people said it was so amazing. So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.